you on behalf of the BCS Quality Specialist Group, and so you're the chair for the business change. Would like to just say something, Soya?
Welcome to everyone. Most probably this is our last event for this academic year, and we'll see you after that in September, most probably, if not in August.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So apologize for our late start. I'm sorry about that. So first of all, as I say, welcome you on behalf of the two specialist groups, also the Hampshire branch. Can we ask people to put the questions into the chat area so that we can actually go through? Peter is fantastic and looking forward to his presentation, but rather than disturb the recording, if you put things into the chat, leave your microphone switch off during the presentation, and then we go into the questions afterwards. So at that stage, one of the things I'm just going to put into the chat, just to mention, there's a new competition just starting for young startups, and I'll just put details in the chat if anybody's interested. All the best, and across Peter. Sorry to keep you waiting. Over to Peter Lesson. Thank you.
I know people get my name wrong regularly, but that's okay. So good evening, welcome. The past 2 years, I have had my fill of people selling models, standards, and promises that assure quality. Doesn't work. The promised quality rarely happens. There's a reason for this, and that's what I would like to talk about this evening. After a brief introduction about who I am, I would like to explain what quality is all about, my understanding of quality. I'd like to give a quick talk about standards, the different categories of standards, what they try to achieve and what they fail to achieve, and then go into some of the reasons for failings. And finally, talk about how to move forwards if this is the case and what could be done. So I'll try to respect the time. So who am I to dare speak and criticize standards? Aside from being a chartered quality professional, who am I to express opinions on standards? Well, let's start with the fact that I have been expressing opinions on all sorts of things for a long time. As a public speaker, I have been presenting things privately and publicly. I've spoken at international conferences and small local ones. I have facilitated political debates. I've preached in churches. I've lectured in universities, and I'm very good at expressing my opinions, and even on things I know nothing about. As an instructor, consultant, and coach, I've spent over 25 years analyzing businesses, trying to identify what works, what doesn't work, what are their bad habits, and try to improve the quality of their work. Most of my theories and principles I've put in my book, Orchestrated Knowledge, which is needing an update right now. I've also written 2 books about the practical, pragmatic, and useful implementation of ISO standards. I will add that I understand cultural differences. I was brought up in Belgium to an English-speaking family in English, French, and Dutch. I'm married in German. I have worked internationally. I speak several languages, and I understand how language and culture influence one another. I've moved around. I've lived in various countries with very different cultures. I've understood, I've seen the differences. I have seen in each one that for everything that is better, I can point out something that is worse, and vice versa. So different cultures are largely different, but not better or worse. I've worked on every continent except South America and Antarctica. Still hoping to get to South America one day, and I have worked in one capacity or another for a significant variety of organizations, large and small, with very different objectives, cultures, practices, and problems. And I've always worked at trying to understand and improve the culture of these organizations. As far as models and standards are concerned, I have used, understood, worked with, delivered, studied, been trained, been certified, trained others, audited, and even helped develop a significant number of standards, models, and frameworks. I've listed here those that I feel comfortable speaking about. There are others that I have got a more distant knowledge of. So that's me. That's me. That's probably all you need to know. And now let's go into it and talk about quality. Quality is this bizarre thing. Many people complain about it not being there. Very few bother to try to understand or define what they mean by quality. And it is important. It's vitally critical to your business and to you as an individual. First of all, in today's global market, I can almost certainly find the same product or service as you are providing somewhere else. I can probably find it cheaper. I can find it more colorful, less noisy, whatever. What differentiates you from your competitors is the quality you can offer. Quality is your trademark. It is your unique selling point, the thing that will attract prospects and retain customers. You're in a global market. You've got global competition. You need to prove yourself. Now, in this context, as far as I'm concerned, you may define quality any way you want. You may decide that you want to be the best, zero defects, that you want to be the cheapest, first on the market. Those are valid as long as you understand what it is you are trying to offer. The second reason quality is so important is because it's cheap. Phil Crosby said quality is free. I'll just say it's cheap. And I'd like to illustrate this by reading to you completely out of context something Terry Pratchett wrote, which you might be familiar with, some of you might be familiar with. But this is Terry Pratchett. He's talking about economy and wealth difference, but this fits in quality. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take Boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50, but an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two, and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kinds of boot Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This is what Captain Samuel Vimes' Boots theory on socioeconomic fairness. The same is true for quality. If you're willing to make the original investment, you will save money in the long term. Third reason that quality is so critical is productivity. Job satisfaction is critical to the willingness of people to put in the extra effort that's required. Job satisfaction means that they are happy. They will increase productivity and performance. You will retain your best people as well as your clients. If team members are frustrated, they will have to choose between doing a job for which they don't care and going somewhere else that will allow them to grow and be satisfied. Happy people are more productive and more creative. Keeping your people happy at work is critically important, and that is done through quality. The issue we have is defining what it is. And the challenge is that quality is not something that belongs to your product or service. Quality is the relationship your client, your user, your customer has with your product or service. Quality is whatever your client says it is. And therefore, the number one focus needs to be on that client and understanding them. There should be defining what is the right level of quality. I'm always surprised at team members, project leaders, and others who cannot clearly identify who are their clients and stakeholders. You need to know who are your clients and stakeholders if you are going to determine their requirements and expectations. The first step in talking about quality has to be understanding your clients and your stakeholders. Many project managers, engineers, even management team members cannot tell me who are their real clients and stakeholders. If you don't know that, you cannot identify their requirements and expectations. Expectations being the things that they don't ask you for because they're so obvious they assume you know about it. You can then discuss meeting client requirements and exceeding expectations. Now, when I ask people what quality means to them, most of them talk to me about meeting requirements or exceeding expectations. I don't believe that's enough. I need to go further to anticipate the client's needs beyond expectations and requirements so that you can innovate, implement, and gain their loyalty. Meeting requirements, exceeding expectations is not quality. It is your contractual obligation. You have to do this. Quality is when you get above that. Because when you get above that, then you can start considering that you are truly adding value to your client's world. That is where you go beyond just doing what you've been asked to do, delivering something better. Of course, if you're going to deliver quality, if you're going to go beyond requirements, that has a cost. And so the value and the cost of quality need to be defined and measured if you're going to achieve satisfaction. Now, the traditional form of presenting this is that you achieve quality by understanding the needs expressed as quality factors and quality criteria, which are measured through metrics that demonstrate you have achieved quality. It's a logical circle that goes from understanding to demonstrating the quality through the right combinations of factors and criteria. The problem is factors and criteria. There are a lot of them. There are many of them that you can focus on. And I regret to say that these are not quality. These are characteristics of quality, measures of quality in some aspects. I'll come back to this as to why this is not sufficient. One of the traditional approaches of talking about quality is talking about the cost of quality. What does this mean? How do we bring together all the different costs? I just want to quickly open a parenthesis here and say that most project managers, when they are estimating their project, will focus on the left side of this chart. This is what they expect to do, and this is what they are budgeting for. Later on, when they calculate the costs, they find out they've looked at the wrong side of the chart, which is why so few projects are delivered on time and within budget. You need to focus on what is going to go wrong and understand that. Understanding the user's needs is more important than understanding their requirements and expectations. You need to understand your client's perception of quality. What is it that they believe is important, but cannot formulate it? There are three clear components, three key components to understanding quality. Firmitatis, utilitatis, and venustatis. A little bit of Latin never does anybody any harm. Firmitatis, and this is largely where you will find most of your quality criteria, is the traditional focus on reliability. The people who are using your product need to be able to trust it completely, know that it will not cause errors or break down at key moments. Usability, utility, of course your product needs to be useful. It fulfills a function. This is what your business analysts have defined, your salespeople, what it is that you are trying to achieve. But more important than these two, as far as I'm concerned, is the desirability. Potential customers need to want your product. They need to wait for new versions. They need to know you've resolved the problems in ways they have not yet identified. That is what allows people to queue up overnight for a new release of a Mac, but nobody's ever queued up for an upgrade to Windows. These three basic concepts were first laid out by the architect Vitruvius about 2,000 years ago. He also identified perfect proportions, which is how Leonardo da Vinci created the Vitruvian man according to Vitruvius' principles. And it is what I used in order to create my concept of Vitruvian quality, which I'm not going to go into here. Now, let's talk about standards and models. Standard and models, there are some basic ideas that go behind. They've got some strengths and some weaknesses. They serve a purpose. They respond to a need, and they fall into a few key categories. Standards are needed because you want all your customers to receive the same level of quality. You expect items that you buy to correspond to known criteria. You want reassurance that somewhere has done the right thing to protect you and your investment when needed. But then they outlive their purpose. The standards remain in place beyond their usefulness. The problem has been solved. The extra controls remain in place. This is the divide and conquer principles that form the basis of Taylorism. Frederick Taylor decided that the best way to produce quality was through standardization, enforced cooperation through standardization. This is based on a key paradigm that he promotes, that is, people are just factors of production, okay? Because people are factors of production and you want to maximize production by reducing variance, we need stratification, specialization, formalization, standardization. And that leads us to goals, resource allocation, performance assessment, compensation, processes. It's very difficult if I am going to oblige you to follow a standard process in order to achieve your goal and not allow deviations from it. And that's where we find the KPIs. KPIs is giving you measurements that might or might not be related to your key job. And they are there to be cheated upon. like all metrics, okay? Performance, according to Taylor, is control and alignment. What if you used a different paradigm? What if instead of considering that your people are factors of production, your paradigm was that people are independent, intelligent, creative beings that offer added value to your production system? They are unique combinations that allow you to, that bring you something unique and different. Engineers have proven their intelligence when you hired them. They know how to build something correctly, and they understand the difference between what is needed and what is just pretty. So, the basic type of standards that we have, I'm going to talk about three basic types. First of all, minimum set of practices, and I'm putting in this ISO, Prince2, and some others. The continual improvement standard, which is CMMI, Ticket Plus, and a few others, and the guaranteed practices standard, such as Six Sigma, Agile, etc. ISO and the similar standards are basic commercial needs. They are seeking to establish minimum qualitative requirements for all kinds of products and services. This is a marketing standard. It is frequently required if you want to work in a given industry. It does not necessarily bring value by itself. Very few people believe that ISO 9001 gives them quality, but understand that if they don't have them, then you're that business that does not even have ISO 9001. CMM and the others are models of improvement that allow your organization to be audited, appraised, assessed at a given level, which supposedly tells your clients what level of professional understanding and practices you have in place on your production and delivery services. You can then work to move up to a higher level. Six Sigma and others are the best practices. They promise you success and high quality if you follow the instructions carefully. This doesn't usually seem to deliver what was expected. Now, I'd like to exclude from my presentation a number of frameworks. These have no concept of certification or audit, but are based on an education in a technique or approach that allows you to change the way you do things. I'm excluding those. The biggest benefit of every standard is the marketing, the sales, the purchasing. You give your clients and prospects the understanding, the reassurance that an independent authority has looked at your practices, has looked at your products, has looked at the way you do things, and decided that you are fully fulfilling recognized industry expectations. So why does it go wrong? It goes wrong primarily because of the commercial aspect. This happens in a number of steps. First step, every practice, principle, control, process, standard is based on a success. It is implemented somewhere, and the author, the consultant, the head engineer believes this is a valid way of working that can be usefully shared with other organizations. So they proceed to document this, and they write the book, they give the TED Talk, they put up the website and explain how great this is. We then have auditors who start measuring how well you are satisfying the standards. Consultants become aware that they can help you implement it in a way that will satisfy the auditor, and things start going wrong. Consultants and auditors know the standard, but have never actually done the work themselves. They've never been under client pressure. They've never had to answer to unreasonable management demands. They've never had to do the work themselves. And so they start pushing the standard because that is their job. They start pushing for compliance of the standard and forget about client satisfaction. The objective of the auditors is to measure compliance. The consultants who are selling this are pushing compliance. And there are very few metrics that prove that this solution actually works. Six Sigma, that promotes metrics and statistics, keeps on referring back to their two great success stories, General Electric and Motorola. Both businesses have largely fallen out of favor since they implemented Six Sigma. Not because, but since. We're placing the proverbial cart before the horse. You need to satisfy the auditor rather than the customer. As we approach the audit, more and more activities are being deployed. People are making an extraordinary effort in order to reach the level they want for the auditor. And as soon as the auditor leaves, these practices stop. I have been in businesses that spend more time and money falsifying and backdating documents for an audit than it would have taken them to do things correctly over time. We start doing things as we are told to do. We are pushing standardization. Creativity and innovation are discouraged. The purpose is to remain average within your bell curve. As a consequence, you get supposedly high-level organizations that are delivering bad quality products. The customers do not see you as better than your competitors. The standard is seen by the employees and by the customers as additional work and bureaucracy. It is just more work. I'm sure most of you have seen the George Fox quote, "All models are wrong, some are useful." In fact, what we are getting to here is that the consultant is coming to help you do your job and is in fact creating more problems for you and not actually solving the issue that they and you believe they were going to solve. So, what's the solution? Is there a solution? Should we just throw out the whole thing? Should we look at all these different standards, all these different models and possibilities and frameworks and just say, sweep them all away? No. Every standard, every model has got useful information and ideas in it, but you need to read them intelligently and ask, why was this included? How does this fit the goal? How does this activity fit the model's objective? How does it fit my objectives? Should I be doing this? Does this benefit my clients? Can I give data to prove why I am right in not doing it? You have to bend the model and the standard to your needs, not bend your business to the standard. You need to focus on what really matters. That is, define the job, support the people doing the work, structure the approach logically, organize the work, manage and lead. Define the job. It may surprise you to learn that there's a world of difference between what your clients are buying and what you are selling. You need to understand both aspects if you want to approach the right solution. Your clients want something, they want an experience. You are selling them some form of technology. You need to understand how you can fit your technology to the client's experience. For that, the principle of parsimony, which was created by William of Ockham and is often referred to as Occam's razor, says that entities should not be multiplied without necessity. It's often mistranslated into the simplest solution is usually the best and reversed in its meaning, okay? Entities should not be multiplied without a reason. I like A3 as a coaching model. This is a Toyota product which simplifies things to a minimum. It encourages you to define on a single sheet of paper, what's the problem, why is it a problem, what needs to be done, and how can you solve it? I strongly recommend this as an approach to improvement because it doesn't give you the space to go down rabbit holes and start treating things that are not important. Quality for me is a satisfied customer. That's what matters. That's the thing that matters. The model, the standard you use is far removed from the end goal, okay? We typically use this so that success, the delivery of good products and services defines on the trinity of people, process, and technology. But what really matters in there is that your process and technology are there to support your people. Your people produce quality. The process and technology only have value if they are helping the people produce better quality more effectively. That is why when I do a process definition workshop, I get the people who are doing the work as a team to define what they need to do, what products they need in order to do it, and what are the controls and measurements they will impose upon themselves to make sure that they are progressing towards client satisfaction. It's not new, okay? The Sheward-Deming cycle has been there for a long time. The Deming wheel was created in 1950. In 1955, an unknown Japanese person translated into PDCA. Deming changed that into a cycle for learning and improvement called Plan, Do, Study Act that was later evolved into SAP-Do, Study, Analyze, Plan, Do, which I particularly like because it involves preliminary studies of goals and targets, as well as the necessary education and training for the users before deployment. What all this is saying is that, okay, I've put in a few extra words here in order to clarify what is what. Different words and combinations can be used, but the key thing is that you need to continuously learn lessons and continually improve based on that improved understanding. This means pushing the decision down to the person who is best placed to make a decision. Traditional hierarchies don't work. In most companies, we have got a tiny group of people who are doing what your client wants to buy, who are building widgets, writing code, and an enormous group of people who are controlling what others do. When you are at the bottom of the pyramid and you need a decision, it can sometimes take weeks for it to go through all the layers, all the way to the top and come back, by which time misrepresentation, misunderstanding, and misinterpretation lead you to mistakes. You need to focus your organization around the need for knowledge and communication, not around process and hierarchy. Let the people who do the work make their decisions together and choose what is most beneficial for the clients and the organization. And in order to implement that, you design your business, you design your culture, you design your process, you design your organization. When I say design, I am talking about a continuous spiral of activities which allow you to understand what is the problem, challenge it, decide what's the right approach, identify the risks, the priorities that are needed, define your focus, your plans, your goals, and now start building the answer. Control, measure, compare, and decide what is wrong so that you can progress again. This continuous spiral of design is an ongoing activity. This is the foundation of continual improvement of your products, but also of your processes and the way your organization works. You need to design the culture you want. This is often forgotten. What culture do you expect to find in your organization? Many cultural desires and good cultures are contradictory and incompatible. You cannot have a staff that are expected to respect standards while at the same time challenging the way we do things in order to improve. You need to decide what is important for your business. What are the things you stand for as a business? You want to design the organization. So you create a flow chart as to who does what, because you're going to need specialists, accountants, salespeople, engineers, and so on. They know, they understand what it is they're supposed to do, what are their boundaries, their authority, and their accountability. But you then need to focus on building the collaboration and cooperation principles at every level. This is key to success, so that individuals can make decisions in real time and know what they can do, what they cannot do. This is where we start understanding how the team can win through the power of every individual. The next thing you need to do is encourage creativity. If you are not innovating in your organization, you are accepting that your competitors will catch up with you, will take over. You're accepting that your jobs will be replaced by automation. Innovation means you're getting your people curious, to learn from their mistakes, to share the information, and live in an environment that will not blame them for failing. This is a chart I use when I am measuring cultural aspects in an organization in order to identify how well ideas flow through the organization. What are the weak spots? What are the strong spots? A key aspect of creativity is diversity. Too many organizations focus on team spirit, where we have got a small group of clones with redundant knowledge, experience, and ideas. You want to have people who will challenge you. You want to have rebels in your team. You want to have people who have got a very different experience, past education, who can challenge the way you're doing things. Netflix CEO puts the success firmly in the camp of encouraging people to make their own decisions, get feedback, understand different perspectives, and then go out and do it without asking for permission every time. Contrary to what most standards say, you should only be gathering data and measurements if they are useful to improve your understanding, if you are going to do something with it. Measurement is expensive and it is often something that can easily be cheated upon, okay? Quality does not depend on your metrics, on your audits, on your processes. Quality depends on your people. And you, as a manager, you need to understand that your primary role in management is to satisfy the innate desire people have to take pride in the value of their work. That's the manager's role. The leader's role, which is slightly different, it is about motivation and not about management. And a good leader is one who acts like the team members when the customer is watching, okay? Leadership means going the distance with the team, carrying the load, protecting, guiding, inspiring them to take the next step to go further. Like a good Sherpa climbing the Tibetan mountains, you need to carry the load, you need to lead, guide, and support. And that's it. I leave you with a quote here from a CEO. If you really believe that customer satisfaction is the main reason for achieving superior results, you have to eliminate any kind of steering mechanism that could push your employees to do something that is not in the interest of your customers. If you would like to continue the discussion, if you want help, feel free to contact me, putting up my contact details here. And I am going to ask you to please, please, please give me feedback, okay? I love feedback. It's my only way of improving. And the feedback means that I will offer a free day of consultancy to anyone who provides feedback within the next 24 hours. And I leave you with that and with Anders Bourbon's comment.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Peter. That was
questions?
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.